please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined the group and are about to join. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I will hand over to Kumar Prabhu and Shashwin today, who will lead us in the Manglacharan. Shashwin.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishram Sabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadanti Swakadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yutapatakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shya Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvairam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sarvana Lalita Shri Vishaka He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabanto Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanjakalpatarubhyascha Vasindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna. Pranam. Today we are reading chapter 1, lesson chapter 7.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we can't hear you.
Yes, so someone can read the verse.
Okay. May I ask Saswin to read the verse, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Nijagrahau Jasa Veera Kalim Digvijaye Kvachit Nripalinga Daram Sudram Gnatam Gomitunam Pada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, you can do the word for word.
Hare Krishna. Nijagraha sufficiently punished. Ojasa by power provis. Viraha valiant hero. Kalim unto Hali, the master of the age. Dik Vijay on his way to conquer the world. Vachit once upon a time. Nirpalinga Taram, one who possesses in the dress of a king. Sutram, the lower class. Hinandam, hurting. Ho Midunam, a cow and bull. Pada on the leg. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Okay, you can
Prabhuji.
read the translation.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Vijay.
Once, when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a sutra, disguised as a king and hurting the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once got hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Hare Krishna.
If someone would like to read the purport.
Soni Mataji. Soni Mataji.
Or you take turns.
Yeah, kindly read the purport.
1 minute, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, sorry.
Krishna.
Text 4,
Yes, Mataji.
purport. The purpose of a king's going out to conquer the world is not for self aggrandizement. Maharaj Parikshit went out to conquer the world after his ascendance to the throne, but this was not for the purpose of aggression on other states. He was the emperor of the world, and all small states were already under his regime. His purpose in going out was to see how things were going on in terms of their godly state. The king, being the representative of the Lord, has to execute the will of the Lord duly. There is no question of self-aggrandizement. Thus, as soon as Maharaj Parikshit saw that a lower class man in the dress of a king was hurting the legs of a cow and a bull, at once he arrested and punished him. The king cannot tolerate insults to the most important animal, the cow, nor can he tolerate disrespect for the most important man, the Brahman. Human civilization means to advance the cause of Brahmanical culture, and to maintain it, cow protection is essential. There is a miracle in milk, for it contains all the necessary vitamins to sustain human psychological conditions for high achievements. Brahmanical culture can advance only when man is educated to develop the quality of goodness. For this, there is a prime necessity of food prepared with milk, fruits, and grains. Maharaj Parikshit was astonished to see that a black Sudra dressed like a ruler was mistreating a cow, the most important animal in human society. The age of Kali means mismanagement and quarrel, and the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men with the modes of lower class men who have no higher ambition in life came to the helm of the state management. Such men at the post of a king are sure to first hurt the cow and the Brahmanical culture, therefore pushing all society towards hell. Maharaj Parikshit, trained as he was, got the scent of his root cause of all quarrel in the world. Thus, he wanted to stop it in the very beginning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, hand over to you, Prabhuji.
All glories to His divine grace. Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You can hear me all right?
Yes, Prabhuji, very well.
I can hear you.
Yes. So this is continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16. Today's text is number 4. So after the battle of Kurukshetra and the disappearance of Bhishma Dev and the Pandavas. They retired to go back home, back to Godhead. Lord Krishna had returned, left this planet. Of course, he is always in the spiritual world, but Lord Krishna left our vision, just like the sun leaves our vision at night. So now we're hearing how the grandson, Maharaj Pariksit, is going to rule the world. And the age of Kali is starting. So this chapter is called How Pariksit Received the Age of Kali. So he was the king. And Srila Prabhupada describes how, as a good king, as a good leader, he was acting on behalf of Krishna. So this is the proper perspective of a prime minister or president or a leader, whether it's the leader of the country, the leader of the town, or the leader of a family. The proper perspective is that we are acting on behalf of Krishna. Unfortunately, Srila Prabhupada explains, because of ignorance, people, often leaders are self-centered. Everyone's self-centered, focus more on their own profit. Just like when we work for a company, if we are working for a business or we are working for the government, we're supposed to be thinking about the benefit of the employer, isn't it? We're not supposed to be thinking so much about our benefit, but how the business can be more successful, how the government can be more successful, right? But when we become too selfish and too self-focused, then we don't do our work properly because we're so busy thinking about our own gain. Even the owners of companies, sometimes they are too selfish, too self-centered. They don't take care of the employees. They don't give the employees proper benefits. They don't think about the benefits of the employees. Fathers and mothers, sometimes they are too selfish, and perhaps they did not even want children, and so they do not take care of them. They're mostly thinking about how they can be happy, not how the children can have the best life. So selfishness, too selfish. So the leaders of society, especially the prime minister or the king, are supposed to be thinking of themselves as representatives of Krishna, acting as the representative of the will of Krishna, and looking after the citizens. So Maharaj Pariksit, he was a religious leader, spiritually wise person. So this was his mentality. There are so many, we don't have to look very far. There are so many political leaders who are very self-centered, and they steal money from the treasury, and they build themselves mansions and palaces and use the money of the state for themselves and for their family, and the country goes to hell. So this kind of mentality, Srila Prabhupada describes in the last part of the purport, that such worthless men, and the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men with the modes of lower class men who have no higher ambition in life. So the whole thing comes to the point of having no higher ambition in life. They're only focused upon living in this temporary world and enjoying this one life as much as possible. And they have no other ambition. The lions and giraffes and baboons, they have no thinking other than how something to eat and how to protect themselves. That's all, the only thing that's on their mind. And so humans, if that's the only thing that a human is thinking about, how I can make an arrangement for eating and sleeping and defending myself, then really there's no difference between the human and the animal. In that sense, we are the same. But the humans, we do have a bigger brain, and it is possible for us to think about who created this existence and what is our relationship to Krishna and who we are, what we are. So if anyone is not wise, is not spiritually Krishna conscious, then things are not going to go well, either in the family, in the town, in the business, in the country, in the world. If we look at the different wars that are going on, it is due to a lack of Krishna consciousness. So much civil war and terrorists and cheating, very hurtful cheating, business people. Because, why is it? Ultimately is because they're not spiritually conscious. So Maharaj Pariksit, it is described here that he went out for a tour and he saw that there was someone who was herding a cow. And this was immediate evidence, greatly sinful. Srila Prabhupada writes that the king cannot tolerate insults to the most important animal, the cow, nor can the king tolerate disrespect for the most important man, the Brahmin. Human civilization means to advance the cause of Brahminical culture, and to maintain it, cow protection is necessary. So milk, as we may know, is very valuable food. It nourishes the nerves and the brain and the physical, other parts of the body, the bones, everything. So when we have good health, then we can function properly, do what we need to do. And so if someone is herding the cow, who supplies for free such a valuable thing, milk, from milk is very magical, isn't it? Think of all the things we get from milk. We get cheese, we get butter, we get ghee, we get sour cream, and from that we get curd. And so many different foods can be made with ghee and curd and cheese and milk, cream, sour cream, ice cream. So many, many, many foods, different kinds can be made from milk. It is a magical kind of food. And Brahminical culture, what does Brahmin mean? What is a Brahmana? Who can say? What is a Brahmana? Someone? What is a Brahmin?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Brahmana is Hare Krishna Prabhu. 10 word pronouns. Please accept my humble obeisance. And to all the assembled devotees, I can try. A Brahmana is someone who adheres to the moral and scriptural codes and who worships the Supreme Lord, I guess.
Okay. Someone who is focused on the spiritual and worships Krishna, God. Very good. And Brahminical. Brahminical means, so a Brahmin or Brahminical, it means someone who has that kind of thinking pattern. It's not based upon a dress or what family a person was born in, but what their actual focus of life is and what their personal qualities are. It doesn't matter where they are, what country, male or female. If they have the qualities, Brahminical qualities, and then we should recognize that this is a Brahminical person. And why are such persons so important? Who would like to offer their thoughts about that? Why are such people so important?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Is it one of the reasons could be to maintain the Dharma as prescribed in the Vedic scriptures or as coming from the Supreme? So to maintain it, so it has been, so what needs to be done has been given to us as directives by the Supreme, and the Brahmanas help in teaching to others the right way of living.
So the Brahmins, they teach this valuable spiritual wisdom. So that's a very valuable thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Prabhuji, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just it. So important is higher spiritual consciousness, and someone who is able to give us advice and instruction, then they are very valuable. No? Very, very valuable. And if there aren't such persons, then we're in big trouble, aren't we? Yes. It's just like if we're traveling somewhere and there's no one who knows how to get where we're going, then that's a big problem, isn't it? Yes, that's a very big problem. So very important that these types of people are taken care of, and to hurt them or to somehow cause problems is a big mistake. So then Srila Prabhupada goes on to describe that this person that Maharaj Pariksit saw, who was herding the cow, was dressed as a ruler, which is very bad. Of course, it's bad for anyone to cause trouble, but when a leader themselves is doing something like this, that's especially bad. Now, it certainly sets a wrong example. It is said, yad yad atarati shrestas, that whatever a great person does, other people tend to follow. And we see that this is true. The masses of public, they look to see what influential and important people are doing. So if the ruler or the king is breaking spiritual values and doing hurtful things, sinful things, it is especially bad. And it's described here that Maharaj Pariksit was astonished. Maharaj Pariksit was amazed that this person who was dressed like a ruler was doing such abominable things. So this is So this is the age of Kali. Where people ask that, why are things so bad? Will things become better? But it is like asking when there's a cyclone that why isn't the wind calm, and why there's so much rain? But that's what a cyclone is. We can't expect something different when a typhoon hits a country. It's going to mean floods and so much rain and storms, hail, a lot of damage. So this is the age of Kali. And sadly, this is what's happening. And this is what's going to be happening. So what do we do when there's a big storm or there's a flood coming? What can we do? We can find a way to be as safe as possible. Perhaps find a boat even that can carry us in the river, or on the floodwaters, or find a way to the top of the roof of the house where we're living so we can get there, or find some shelter where we can stay. Sometimes that is all we can do, and wait for the storm to pass. So during this age of Kali, which means ignorance, the age of Kali means spiritual ignorance. It means a loss of good qualities. People become bad-minded. It's just the nature of the time. So we have to protect our own souls. We have to keep our own spiritual consciousness and higher values strong so that we can pass through this storm. And if we are able, just like Maharaj Pariksit, it is the duty of the leaders, of the politicians, of the police, managers, to keep the influence of sinful activities minimized, if not eliminated, and to always promote pious activities, spiritual activities. And we can summarize that for ourselves and for our families and friends, and as far as we might be able to, we want to stay in the shelter of Harinam Sankirtan. We want to stay in the shelter of the chanting and singing of Lord Krishna's holy names, because this is the easiest way to get the spiritual strength to ride through this age of Kali. Harinama, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, 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 gatir anyata. That in this age of Kali, there's no other way, no other more effective way of being free from Maya, from sinful activities, except for this chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Kali Kaliranam Krishna Sankirtana. Golokira Premadama Harinama Sankirtana. That this Sankirtan, this glorification of Krishna, the singing about Krishna's names and Krishna's activities and his qualities and his form, transcendental form, it is imported from the spiritual world. Golokira Premadana. These divine spiritual names are not material. Atashi Krishna Namadi, Nabaven Gram Indraya, Sevan Mukhe Hijivata, Swayam Eva Saradyata. So many verses, so much evidence is there. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Ras Vigraha, Purna Shuddho, Nitya Mukta, Vinatva, Nami Namino. That these divine holy names, they are not material. And by keeping them within our mind, keeping them within our heart, by singing them out loud, alone, and especially together. This is the best way to protect ourselves. That in our family, once or twice a day, we sit down and have kirtan, have bhajan, and as far as possible, we come together in larger groups and have larger sankirtan at festivals and at the temple. Sankirtan. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramvrja. Later, much later, Shukadev Goswami will tell Parikshit Maharaj that this age of Kali is a very difficult age, but there's one good thing about it. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramvrja. That this Sankirtan, it will make us mukta. It'll liberate us from these modes of material nature. Does anyone have any questions or some discussion or comments? Anything? Well, if you all agree, then I will go on to the next verse in purport.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. All right. Text 5. Shanaka Uvacha. Kasya Hetur Nijagraha Kaling Digvajayi Nirpa. Nirdeva Chinadrik Shudra Kausal Ganya Pradahana. Tat Katya Yatam Mahabhaga Yadi Krishna Katashraya. Shanaka Uvacha, Shanaka Rishi said, Kasya, for what? Heto, reason. Nijagraha, sufficiently punished. Kalim, the master of the age of Kali. Digvijaye, during the time of his world tour. Nirpa, the king. Nirdeva, royal person. Chinha Drik, decorated like. Shudraka, lowest of the Sudras. Asau, he. Gam, cow. Ya, one who. Pada ahana, struck on the leg. Tat, all that. Kat yatam, please describe. Mahabhaga, O greatly fortunate one. Yadi, if, however, Krishna, about Krishna. Kata ashrayam, related with his topics. Translation. Shanaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaj Parikshit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of the Sudras, having dressed as a king and struck a cow on the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. Shanaka and the other rishis were astonished to hear that the pious Maharaj Parikshit simply punished the culprit and did not kill him. This suggests that a pious king like Maharaj Parikshit should have once killed an offender who wanted to cheat the public by dressing like a king and at the same time daring to insult the purest of the animals, a cow. The rishis in those days, however, could not even imagine that in the advanced days of the age of Kali, the lowest of the Sudras would be elected as administrators and would open organized slaughterhouses for killing cows. Anyway, although hearing about a Sudraka who was a cheat and an insulter of a cow was not very interesting to the great rishis, they nevertheless wanted to hear about it to see if the event had any connection with Lord Krishna. They were simply interested in the topics of Lord Krishna, for anything that is dovetailed with the narration of Krishna is worth hearing. There are many topics in the Bhagavatam about sociology, politics, economics, cultural affairs, but all of them are in relation with Krishna, and therefore all of them are worth hearing. Krishna is the purifying ingredient in all matters, regardless of what they are. In the mundane world, everything is impure due to its being a product of the three mundane qualities. The purifying agent, however, is Krishna. And the text again, Shaunaka Rishi inquired, why did Maharaj Pariksit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of the Sudras, having dressed as a king and struck a cow on the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. So this, as we remember, Maharaj Pariksit is being spoken to by Shukadeva Goswami, and there is a large gathering of saintly persons, of kings, who are also hearing this. And we are hearing about Maharaj Pariksit and Shukadeva Goswami from the great sage Shaunaka. So we may remember in the beginning, Shaunaka Rishi was gathered with many other sages and yogis, and they were asking him about this conversation. So Shaunaka Rishi is describing Maharaj Pariksit and Shukadeva Goswami. So here, it was unimaginable long ago that a king would do such a thing as herd a cow. It was completely unheard of. But because of the age of Kali, the degradation was happening. And Srila Prabhupada writes here that none of the rishis there could even begin to imagine how things are now. In every major city of the world, there are restaurants selling cow meat, even in smaller places all over the world, practically everywhere. There are international, multinational restaurants dedicated. Such a huge business, and the governments are letting it happen. And so it is no surprise that there is violence. It doesn't even make sense that there could be so much unnecessary pain and suffering caused to animals, especially the cow, and that there would not be some reaction for all of that pain and suffering. And the big slaughterhouses or anywhere, but there's, if you can read, so much abuse and terrorism to the chickens and the ducks and the pigs and the lamb and the sheep and the cows. And the cow is especially bad because the cow is like a mother. The cow gives milk, which is for almost everyone such a valuable food and necessity of life. A cow is a gentle animal. A cow doesn't hurt anyone. And to murder such a creature, it is there. You can read so many stories of cows and bulls, even goats at the slaughterhouse who are crying. They're crying with tears coming down their eyes because they know they're going to be murdered for no medically necessary reason. There's no medical necessity to eat any kind of meat. No medical necessity. It is simply a choice, and a violent choice. And because of all the violence, there are more wars and so many horrible accidents because people are involved in violence. So we want less problems in society. We want less misery. We can't be causing pain and suffering to helpless creatures. That's for sure. So the pious kings and anyone who is spiritually conscious, a good person, wants to stop this terrorism of animals. We're not going to stop terrorism of humans until we stop terrorizing animals. So Srila Prabhupada describes here that these rishis, it seems like a political discussion, just like we can read the newspapers or we can go on our computer and read the news. What's happening in Sudan, what's happening in South Africa, what's happening in Kenya and India, in Italy, so many politics, what's happening in the United States with politics. So this is also political. Maharaj Pariksit is traveling through his kingdom and different things are happening. But because it could be something connected with Krishna, they are interested to hear. And because Krishna is, as we discussed, Nama Chintamani. Krishna is a touchstone. Krishna is fully spiritual. And when we put ourselves near the spiritual, we become spiritualized, just like when we take a piece of wood and put it near the fire, or if we take a spoon, when we're cooking, if we put a metal spoon in the pot of hot water, the spoon will become hot. If we put the spoon over the flame in the fire, we'll get burned. So it's just a metal spoon, but actually it becomes like fire. So same thing. When we put ourselves, when we put our consciousness, put our awareness upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon the Supreme Spirit, then we become spiritualized. And the point is being made here that even if it seems as if we're talking about sociology, politics, economic, anything, but if it's in connection to Krishna, then it's purified, just like we can talk about working for Krishna. We all earn money in different ways, and to earn money for Krishna is not material, it is spiritual. It seems as if we're doing the same work, we're doing the same business, but because it's connected to Krishna, it becomes spiritualized, and our consciousness, to the extent that we really do that, becomes lifted from the modes of material nature. We won't be affected by tamagun and rajagun. So when we organize our life, our whole life, we're sleeping for Krishna, eating for Krishna, working for Krishna, cleaning for Krishna, everything for Krishna. And then our whole life has the opportunity to become spiritualized and lifted above the modes of material nature. So this is one of the wonderful things about bhakti yoga, is that it's very practical. We can do yoga all day, any day, everywhere we are. We don't have to live in a particular place. We don't have to dress in a particular way. We just have to change our consciousness, change our focus, our goal of life. That's the thing. And of course, we do live to our best ability, eating and sleeping, everything in a pure way, in the mode of goodness, to help that. So any questions about this discussion? Any questions or discussion about anything?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please continue. We are hearing.
What is that?
Mataji has a question. I don't know.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh. someone, Mataji wanted to ask a question, but she wasn't clear enough. I don't know if she can ask again.
Does anyone, maybe someone can repeat? I didn't hear that. Something is happening with the sound.
Now,
Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, now clear. Please
Yeah.
continue, Mataji.
Thank you. Well, Prabhu, I was trying to contemplate. You say we have to, if we want to stop the terrorism of the human beings, we have to stop terrorizing the animals. Can you elaborate on that? Because some animals.
Unfortunately, the sound is not doing good today. Must be the age of Kali.
Okay. Sorry, maybe next time then.
Hare Krishna Mataji,
Hare-
I can
Hare
hear you.
Krishna.
So if you just
Yes.
tell me the question, I can mention that to Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I think she asked about stopping terrorism. So if you are to stop terrorism of humans, we need to stop terrorism to animals. So she needed an elaboration on that.
Or you could try typing your comment or question in the chat.
Prabhuji, are we audible? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Something is happening with the connection.
So, Hare Krishna, Soni Mataji, Prabhuji said.
Oh, that's better. I can hear you.
Soni Mataji, Prabhuji said, kindly type it in the chat so he can answer it. I think his audio system having problem.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Oh, yes. Elaborate on terrorism. Yes. For terror. To be terrorized. To be so very frightened. For every action in physics, in science, there's the understanding that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's how rockets or jets work. The jet engines on a plane, the force of the jet pushes, and then the plane goes the other way. So for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You might say that that's common sense. It's a scientific principle, and it's the principle of karma too, that as we do unto others, so it comes back to us. Existence is like a mirror. Whatever we put out comes back. So if we cause pain and suffering to others or to other animals, then we're going to have to experience that same kind of suffering, especially if it's not justified. It's one thing for an adult to attack another adult. It's even worse for an adult to attack a child who is not able to defend themselves. So it's worse. And to cause pain and suffering, to murder an animal is the same thing to one degree or the other. Some animals are better able to protect themselves. But the ones that the goats and the lambs and the sheep, the chickens and cows, they cannot defend themselves. We humans are supposed to be taking care of them. So it is worse. It is a more horrible crime to cause pain and suffering to them because they cannot defend themselves. And it comes back to us. It comes back to us. It has to. During World War II, many decades ago, in Europe, we may know that there were large groups of people who were taken prisoner, and they were killed. They were just put into gas chambers or electrocuted or gassed. Millions and millions and millions of people. We can't imagine millions of people were murdered by the Germans. And they were often taken to these prison camps on cattle cars. The same cattle cars that were used to take cows and bulls to be slaughtered, they were put into those same trains and taken to be killed. So this is what happens. For every action, there's an opposite reaction, and it's described not just in this life, but there's also more reaction in the next life. And then there is another part of this, is that when we murder animals, we have to make our heart insensitive. We have to make our heart hard. And when our heart is hard, we're not going to be treating other people as nicely as we should. So by killing animals, the minds and hearts of people become harder. They become more cruel. They become more insensitive. And so this has an effect on everyday life. It's not just a choice of what I'm going to eat tonight at the pub, but what I'm choosing to eat is going to have an effect upon how on the kind of person I am. So basically, if you have a society of murderers who are turning off their sensitivity so that they can be involved in killing animals, it has a very horrible effect upon the whole society, you see? So it is all connected, how people treat each other. It's well known. There have been studies made, psychological studies, that vegans and vegetarians, they have a more compassionate, kind personality than people who consume meat. It's just common sense. And this has an effect on all of, so imagine if you have business leaders and you have managers and politicians. We don't have to imagine, we see, and they make cruel decisions and they hurt people without caring because their heart is hard. They don't feel it. They don't have empathy. They've turned off their empathy and they don't even know it very often. They're not even aware of it. But at some point, we are aware that when we are involved in meat eating, it is causing, or killing animals, we are hurting someone. And we make a decision to ignore it. Or we can make a decision. And that's what makes our heart harder. Does this make sense? Is there any other questions or comments about this? It's the same thing with abortion. So many things can be said, but if someone chooses to do that, they have to make their heart hard. They have to turn off their empathy, and that has an effect upon their whole life. It really does. They may make believe that they don't care, but actually it becomes like a wound, just like a knife. They take a knife and cut their own heart by being involved in killing animals and abortions. And when the heart is hard, we can't understand Krishna. That's why it is said that there are two types of people who cannot understand Krishna. One is those who are extremely sinful in general, and two, those who are killing animals, because it destroys their sensitivity, their finer feelings. It makes it harder to understand Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is all about love. It is about kindness. It is about compassion. So if someone is not for that, it'll be difficult. It'll be difficult, more difficult. Anything else? Otherwise, we can wind up the meeting.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. Especially about the terrorism, compassion. I think that is what should be driving us, compassion, because Krishna consciousness is all about love. And that's what we should actually be thinking about, just love, compassion, towards humans, towards animals first. If we want to have compassion towards humans, of course, also we need to have compassion towards animals. I think that is what Krishna consciousness is all about, just love. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class.
All right, who would like to close out our meeting tonight?
Hare Krishna. I would like to ask Panchali Mataji to please close the session. Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class as always, taking us through the age of Kali and what Kali has brought into the age, and also talking about animal slaughter and the repercussions to it, not just in this life, but in the following lives as well. So thank you very much for reminding us to be kind and compassionate, and despite being unfortunate enough to be born in the age of Kali, to maintain the path of Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. So if I may request all the devotees to please unmute yourselves and say Hare Krishna in glorification of Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Vanja kalpatarubhyacha kripa patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo
Thank you for your
namaha.
association. Thank you for having me. I wish
Thank you for the
everyone well.
wonderful class. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Bol. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Bol.
Thank
Hare
you, Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.